This is a HausHill original podcast.
Yeah, this album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me I never amount to nothing. It's all good, baby, baby. See you chunks on top.
Thou shalt not hate.
It was all a dream.
Anyone who wants to insert themselves in the culture has that right. They just do. It's like life and pursuit of happiness. You also have the right to tell your story.
You've been very vocal about identifying as a writer, first and foremost. What made you transition into acting? Like, what made you think that that was a place you could go?
I had nothing to do with that choice. Allison Jones, who was legendary, said, I think you should let me bring you in for some stuff. And so I booked a small part on The Comeback, the second season that happened 10 years after the first. It's one of my favorite shows. And I got to be directed by Michael Patrick King and work with Lisa Kudrow on my first professional acting gig, which was not a bad way to kick it off. And then the cool thing about Master of None is that it wasn't the traditional auditioning process. Like apparently Aziz and Alan told Allison to send them interesting people. And so by the grace of God, she said, what about Lena Waithe? Send me to Aziz's house. I sat with Alan and Aziz and talked to them about life for 30 minutes. And I got a call that said that Aziz wanted me to read with him. So I came and I read with him, and we had sort of an instant chemistry. And it sort of went on from there. And he said, come on and play this character, who initially was, I think, supposed to be a straight girl, who could have been potentially a love interest for Dev. But they decided, like, we're going to go with whatever it is you're bringing. And to their credit, they went back and rewrote the episodes and really tailored her to me. And then, like, with Ready Player One, it was all Ellen Lewis and Leslie Fieldman who really saw something in me and believed in me and brought me in and really even introduced the idea of me for the role to Steven, and gratefully he said, yeah, she'll work. And so it's really been by the grace of God and some really imaginative casting directors.
So you kind of almost backed into a writing job on Master of None.
I did, and a lot of people think that I write on the show or had written on the show prior to that episode. I had not. I am an actor for hire on that show, and that's how I like it. I really trust Alan and Aziz and the writers of that show. I don't need to insert myself in that room or tell them, oh, this is how she would talk. Like, that's just not my jam. I really trust them. So, but with this particular story, yes, Aziz and Alan said, we think you should go write it because it's very close to your life. And I was like, okay, I guess, sure. So, and I'm glad I did. It really turned into be one of the best experiences of my life. And that's, Emmy or not. Like, I just had such a wonderful time writing it. And Aziz and I wrote it in London because that's where I was. I was filming Ready Player One. So he was kind enough to come there to write it with me, and we knocked it out in like 3 days. Ma, I'm gay.
You what?
So is that it's fairly accurate, or somewhat, I guess, fictionalized, obviously, version of you coming out to your mom?
It's a thinly veiled version. It's as close to what really happened as you can get.
Was that kind of larger coming out process for you the same way, or was that easier for you?
There's no easy part of coming out. And the reason why I think people connect to the episode so much is because we don't act as if coming out is the main event. It's just a part of it. It's a journey with your family and your friends and with yourself. So I think I'm just grateful to Aziz and Alan and Netflix and NBC Universal to allowing us the space to tell a really honest story of what it means to come out, because it is a process.
So you're a writer on Bones, which I think of as a very mainstream show.
Yeah.
So do you feel pressure? I mean, you're a black gay woman writing on that writing staff, and I don't know the makeup of the writing staff and how diverse it was, but did you feel pressure having to sort of represent anything?
No, because that wasn't the culture of that writer's room. It was very much like write a cool and interesting episode, and everybody was treated pretty equally and fairly. And there was another African-American woman in the room, Nkechi Carroll, whom I love, and is a big reason why I came into the writer's room. She was very instrumental in that. So, no, it was just a really chill environment. There wasn't that, like, cliche, oh no, like, we're doing a black show. Lena, what are your thoughts? Like, they weren't like that. They were just really kind, amazing, and awesome people. I was just with them at a wedding, actually.
Really? So do you feel like that's more common in Hollywood now than it used to be?
I mean, it's a tough thing. I can't really speak to it because I haven't been in that many writers' rooms. I've been in 2, and then one was my own. But I think for the most part, it depends on who's at the top. The showrunner sets the tone, and if there's good leadership, there's going to be a certain kind of vibe in the room where everybody feels like they can pipe up, where no one feels ostracized, nobody feels like they have to be the voice of a whole community of people. When you have a really great showrunner, you have a great room. So I think every room is just dependent on who's sitting at the head of the table.
Was there any particular showrunner you worked under where you was like, this is who I want to be?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I take from all the ones that I've worked with. I think for me, it's not about copying anyone. When it comes to showrunning, it's a very specific skill. So my hope is to be a great leader, is to be someone who encourages collaboration, and to be someone who really empowers the room. That's, I think, my mission. And I haven't really showrun yet. So I look forward to doing it. I look forward to hopefully doing a good job. We'll see.
How do you feel like Hollywood can be better, or a writer's room can be better?
I think you need male allies. I think men, should not be assholes. And if another man sees one behaving as such, you should tell him not to be. I think really a lot of the onus is on them. It is. And we need them to treat women in the workplace as they would hope someone would treat their daughter or their sister or their wives or their mother. And I think if we can get our guys to look at it that way, I think hopefully the behavior will change or shift.
It sounds like that you being gay at work was not as fraught as maybe some other people might have had.
Yeah, maybe.
People were very inclusive.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that it was good luck, or why do you think that you had an easier time of it?
I mean, I think I work with very young and forward-thinking people, especially on Master of None. I know not every showrunner is a young, Indian guy or a young Asian guy. I think, and we've seen, I think Variety did a report that still predominantly showrunners are older white males, and that's not those guys' fault. I think it's still the industry trying to catch up to the times. So I think that does need to change, because that's still, even though these shows may not be about just white males, it's still being pumped through their perspective. So I do think that needs to shift. I think we need to have more people of color, more women, more people of different sexual orientations sitting at the head of the table, because it'll influence these calls with executives, it'll influence the way these scripts are executed, it'll influence the way these shows are really, presented to the world. So that is a mission that I think is really important. I think the industry believes it's truly important, and we don't want to do away with all the white guys. I just think it's a matter of spreading around the responsibility in terms of who is show running, and I think it's a thing that I think the industry is very aware of, and it's a problem that we need to face head on. And I think we do that by hiring and really giving people a chance to show run, because it's a busy job, but it's a job that I think people can learn.
And do you get encouraged when you look at all the streaming networks? There seems to be a lot more places for stories to get told, obviously, than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, the streaming places, I think, open up a lot of opportunities for people who aren't white males, who do come from, a different walk of life, or who do like to tell stories that are a little bit off the beaten path. I think that's what's so exciting, is that there's more even than the 3 networks or the premium cable channels. Now there's so many different avenues and places to tell your story and to introduce new characters. So that to me is really exciting, because I really believe that anyone who wants to insert themselves in the culture has that right. They just do. It's like life and pursuit of happiness. You also have the right to tell your story. And I think the more platforms we have, the easier it'll be for those folks to do that.
Is there anyone in your life, a mentor that you feel like has really shaped who you are now?
I mean, I've had a lot of mentors. I worked on Mara Brock Akil's shows, Girlfriends and The Game. I worked with Gina Prince Bythewood on her feature, Secret Life of Bees, and she's still very much a big part of my life. Ava DuVernay, I was the PA on her first narrative film, I Will Follow, which was a wonderful experience and very transformative. And then I got a chance to meet one of my biggest heroes, which is Susan Fales-Hill, who was the showrunner of A Different World. And she was a young pup sitting at the head of that table, and she hired people like Yvette Lee Bowser, you know, to work on that show. And her, Yvette Lee Bowser, and Debbie Allen really helped to shape that series and really make it what it was. I know it's still seen as a spinoff of The Cosby Show, but it really is its own thing. Because if you think about it, Denise was only there for like a year and some change. And then it really became Whitley Gilbert and Freddie and Dwayne and Ron and Kim and Jaleesa, and these characters really filled up the space, and it became a timeless show, and it was one that impacted me very much. I mean, if people know me, it's like my old handle used to be Hillman Grad, which was the name of the fictitious HBCU which those students went to. So it was very impactful. So I'm really grateful to Yvette, to Susan, to Debbie for creating such a beautiful trifecta and saying, we're gonna make something amazing. And I know they had no idea that it would be as lasting or as impactful as it was. But I'm glad they did the work. I'm glad they stepped up. And I'm sure they burned a lot of, midnight oils and, burned a candle at both ends and all that stuff, because if it weren't for that show, I don't think I'd be sitting here today.